Welcome to Fantasia, home of the Melodious. My name's Azallea, and today, gonna be bringing you guys a little tutorial, this time on Ostinato. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably wondering, well, where's the Lunar Light tutorials? You promised those first. Yes, I did, but think of this as kind of testing the waters for the kind of format and setup I want for my future tutorial videos, and for the Lunar Lights, it's gonna be a little series of videos, and I kind of want that to be consistent throughout. So, I want you guys to leave comments and feedback down below, letting me know what you guys prefer to see, how you guys want things structured, and hopefully you guys like the setup that I have right now. So I guess without further ado, let's just get right into this. So when most people read Ostinato, the first thing that they think of is, wow, I can establish the aria and elegy lock with a single card. And they're correct. So the way we do this is we activate Ostinato, and we send aria and elegy from our deck to the graveyard in order to summon Shiberta from the extra deck. Now, when we enter the end phase, Ostinato's effect will trigger, destroying Shiberta and special summoning the materials that were used to summon her. In this case, it would be aria and elegy. And now we have established the infamous aria and elegy lock that everyone seems to love. Now, personally, I don't really like this setup because it doesn't provide me any versatility and options on my next turn. So what we have now is mismatched levels in terms of level 4 in aria and level 5 in elegy. We can't XYZ summon there, and we don't have any way to access our fusions. So what I'm going to show you guys are probably more optimal and more versatile ways of playing Ostinato in the following clips. So one of my favorite plays with Ostinato is to send aria and Tam Tam instead of aria and elegy. So, showing you right now, sending aria, and gonna send Tam Tam from the deck to the graveyard to summon a Shiberta. Now, this allows Tam Tam to trigger, which allows us to target Shiberta, decrease her attack by 500, and inflict 500 burn damage to our opponent. Not too bad of a setup play in a deck like Melodious, to be honest. Now, when we go to the end phase, we can trigger Shiberta's destruction with Ostinato, which brings back aria and Tam Tam in defense mode. Now, this allows us to summon both of them simultaneously, which means that Tam Tam's effect can trigger, which means that we can search a polymerization from our deck. Now, this setup play is very good for us, because next turn we have access to 2 level 4s in the form of aria and Tam Tam, both level 4 light fairy type monsters. This means that we can go into a multitude of XYZ plays, including light exclusive XYZs and fairy type exclusive XYZs like Buchinte Tsukuyomi and Fairy Cheergirl. We also have access to polymerization, which means that we can fuse both of these monsters together and make another Shiberta from our extra deck. This just allows us to have toolbox options and allows us to have a wider range of plays on our following turn rather than just have a lock on the field. Another play that we can do with Ostinato is to keep our fusion summon monster on the field. In order to achieve this, when we activate Ostinato, we just have to send Opera. Now, Opera, when she uses fusion material, you can protect your Melodious monsters that you control by battle and by card effects for the rest of the turn. So I'm just going to send Mozarta alongside Opera so we have access to all of the fusions for the archetype. Bloom Diva has inherent protection, so it's kind of a waste to send Opera with her. But if you want to summon Shiberta and keep her on the field for disruption, or if you want to summon Bloom Prima, which we will do in this case for aggressive plays on your next turn, you can do that as well. Now, as you can see, Opera activates in the graveyard, giving our Bloom Prima protection, so when we enter the end phase, Opera prevents her from being destroyed by Ostinato's effect. Pretty useful, in my opinion. So let's say that for whatever reason you want to summon a Bloom Diva instead of going for the other options. The way we can do that without using Opera and wasting her effect for protection would actually be to use Tam Tam as a material instead. So if we use Tam Tam, we can send a Maestra alongside her. We'll just send Mozarta again, and this time we'll summon Bloom Diva. Put her in defense mode. Tam Tam's effect will activate, burning our opponent for 500 damage and decreasing Bloom Diva's attack by 500 points. Now, because of Bloom Diva's effect, the attack point decrease doesn't really mean anything at all. So, and because Bloom Diva has inherent protection, she can protect herself from Ostinato's destruction effect during the end phase, and we get to keep her around. So for the last of our basic ostinato combos, we can actually set up a field of aria alongside of a maestra. In order to do this, when we activate ostinato, we just have to send an aria and either a Chopina or a Mozarta. You'd send Chopina if you have monsters in your graveyard that you want to get back to your hand, and you'd send Mozarta if you have monsters in your hand that you want to summon to utilize their effects. In this case, we're just going to send Mozarta. The most important thing here is that you're going to summon a Bloom Prima. So when you summon the Bloom Prima and you enter the end phase, and she gets destroyed by Ostinato, you can special summon your materials back, aria, and whatever maestra that you sent, and then you can activate Bloom Prima's effect to actually target herself to put her back into the extra deck. Now this is pretty good because we can actually make sure that we don't waste the monsters in our extra deck. We could send a Shiberta, of course, and Shiberta will be destroyed and be in the graveyard. If you had to call the Haunted to something, then sure, go for that. You can set the Call of the Haunted as well and bring her back during the end phase. But if you don't, you can send a Bloom Prima and just reset your extra deck after this play, which helps save your resources for later turns. So now that we've gotten most of the basics out of the way, we can go into some of the more convoluted combos, I guess. Although most of these things aren't very complicated at all. So what we have right here is Ostinato, Soprano, and Cannon. And as we know, Soprano and Cannon are a really good combo for making rank 4 plays, as well as establishing fusion plays. And now we have Ostinato that can help extend some of our combos. So when we activate Ostinato, we can send an aria, and we can send one of the maestras. In this case, we're going to send a Chopina. And we're going to summon a Bloom Prima from this. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to summon our Soprano, and we're going to special summon our Cannon from our hand, and we can go for a fusion play. So we can fuse Soprano and Cannon together to summon a Shiberta. This establishes some form of disruption on our opponent's turn, and then when we enter the end phase, Bloom Prima will be able to destroy herself due to Ostinato's effect, and then we can special summon back the aria as well as the Chopina. Now when Bloom Prima goes to the grave, we can use her effect and add back either Soprano or Cannon. In this case, we're going to add back Soprano, because on our next turn we can add back the Cannon with our Chopina. And here we can see that we end with a pretty strong field of aria, we have a way to recycle monsters with Chopina, and we have disruption in the form of Shiberta. So what do we do if we open up with Ostinato alongside of Ties of the Brethren? Well, it's important to note that Ties of the Brethren prevents us from special summoning monsters for the rest of the turn if we use its effect. Therefore, when the monster gets destroyed by Ostinato, we can actually summon back the fusion materials that were used for the fusion summon. So it's important that when we play Ostinato in this situation, we're going to send an opera. Now of course if you're summoning a Bloom Diva, there's no need to send an opera, but we're going to summon a Shiberta in this case, because she provides the most disruption on our opponent's turn. So summoning Shiberta, we need to activate Opera's effect to protect her from being destroyed during the end phase. Now, we can special summon our Cannon from our hand. This could also be a normal summon Soprano, an Honest, any other light fairy type monster that isn't Aria or Tam Tam. Because when we activate Ties of the Brethren, we target Cannon, and then we can special summon Aria and, well, Tam Tam from our deck. This allows us to trigger Tam Tam's effect, which allows us to search a polymerization from our deck to our hand. And now when we enter the end phase, there should be a prompt to destroy Shiberta with Ostinato, but Opera protects her, and we get to keep a really strong field. Now on our next turn, we have multiple options. Of course, if you use Shiberta's effect, that is completely fine. We can fuse for a second Shiberta with the polymerization in one of our monsters, either Tam Tam or Cannon. We can make a Bloom Diva the same way, either Tam Tam or Cannon along with the Shiberta. We can make a Bloom Prima that has 2800 attack by fusing all three of these monsters here under the protection of Aria, which is pretty good, not too shabby at all. And we can also make rank 4 plays between Cannon and Tam Tam without disrupting the lock that Aria has on the field, protecting our Shiberta. So this offers a lot of utility and a lot of versatility in terms of what kinds of plays we can make on our next turn. So speaking of making strong disruptive boards, one option that we can do when we open up with Ostinato, Summoner Monk, and any other spell card is we can actually establish a field of Shiberta and either an Abyss Dweller or a Traptrix or Flesia. Now if we activate Ostinato, we can send Opera, as well as any other Melodious monster. In this case, I'm just going to send a Mozarta. We can summon a Shiberta straight from our extra deck and leave her in attack position. Make sure to activate Opera's effect to protect Shiberta from being destroyed during the end phase. Now we can summon our Summoner Monk and discard our spell card in our hand to special summon a Tam Tam straight from our deck. Now when we summon the Tam Tam can activate her effect to search a polymerization for us. This just allows us to gain a little bit more advantage while we set up for our field. Now here we can summon a Traptrix or Flesia. If you don't really know what you're going up against, it's a good card to go blind. And we can also set up an Abyss Dweller if you know that your opponent's playing a more graveyard reliant deck. So in this case, we're going to assume that we don't know what our opponent's playing, and we're just going to make a Traptrix or Flesia right off the bat. And this is a pretty good field overall, and as we see when we enter the end phase, Ostinato protects Shiberta from being destroyed, and we get to keep her around. So what do we do if our opponent's playing a deck that tries to fill up their graveyard as fast as possible? Well, we actually have a way to make double Shiberta on our first turn. So if we activate Ostinato, all we have to do is send an Opera and a Cannon. This is the important part. You can also send a Sonata if you wish, but Cannon works in providing us more utility in terms of allowing us to go into rank 4 plays. So we'd summon a Shiberta from our extra deck, and Cannon will provide her protection from destruction during the end phase. So now we get to summon our Summoner Monk, and then use his effect to discard the spell card in our hand to summon a Soprano from our deck. Now Soprano, when she is summoned, allows us to grab back a Cannon from our graveyard. And it doesn't really matter that we're removing some of the fusion materials from the graveyard because Shiberta won't be defusing due to Ostinato under Opera's protection. So when we add back Cannon to the hand, we can special summon her to the field, use Soprano's effect to fuse with Cannon, and then summon our second Shiberta. And this allows us to banish up to 6 cards in our opponent's graveyard, as well as set up a pretty strong field in terms of having 2 3k beat sticks on our next turn. So what do we do if we want to set up with a more defensive field, something that has more protection? We're playing Melodious, of course. So what we can actually end up having is an Aria, a Maestra, along with either a Traptrix or Flesia or an Abyss Dweller with this same hand that we've been using for the past couple of clips. So starting off, we just activate Ostinato, and we send an Aria and whatever Maestra that you feel is the most appropriate for your situation at the time. And then we can summon the Bloom Prima from your extra deck. Now what you can do is summon your Summoner Monk, use his effect to discard the spell card, and then you can summon a Tam Tam from your deck, which allows you to search the polymerization for the +1. And now you can overlay for whatever you feel is appropriate. In this case, I'm going to go for a Traptrix or Flesia. And now, as we enter the end phase, Bloom Prima is going to destroy herself due to Ostinato, and then we get to special summon Aria, as well as Mozarta. And then Bloom Prima will activate, and you can target herself to reset her and put her back into the extra deck, which allows you to access her in your future turns if you need her. So to wrap up this video, I have one more combo for you guys, another Summoner Monk one, but this time requires 2 additional spells in your hand. Now this combo allows you to end up with a field of Shiberta, Traptrix with Flesia, and Abyss Dweller, which is probably one of the most disruptive fields this deck can make without using Instant Fusion or Soul Charge. So to start this off, we obviously start with Ostinato, sending an Opera along with a Cannon from our deck to the graveyard in order to summon Shiberta. Don't forget to activate Opera's effect in order to protect Shiberta from destruction during the end phase. Now when we summon our Summoner Monk and we discard our spell card, we have to make sure that we summon the second copy of Summoner Monk from the deck. Now you can use the second copy of Summoner Monk to discard the second spell card, in order to summon a soprano. Soprano's effect will activate and get Cannon back from your graveyard and add it to your hand, in which you can now special summon her. Now you can overlay the 2 Summoner Monks for Traptrix Rafflesia, and you can overlay the Soprano and the Cannon for an Abyss Dweller. Of course, you can go for Gente Tsukiyomi or Fairy Cheergirl, but we're looking for disruption here. So now what we have is a field of Rafflesia, Shiberta, and Abyss Dweller, preventing our opponent from using their graveyard and really disrupting all of their summons. So thank you all so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please leave a like, subscribe for more Melodious content, and leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care. Oh man, you guys thought we were done. We're not done. We're never done. So what I want to show you guys in this little bonus clip here is just a little taste of what it's like in Fantasia. So what we have to do here first is obviously activate Ostinato, and we send an Aria and a Mozarta from our deck to the graveyard. We'll summon Bloom Diva because she looks really pretty, alright? Next off, we're going to activate the Defusion, targeting our beautiful Bloom Diva, putting her back in the extra deck, too beautiful for the field, and special summon our Aria and our Mozarta from our graveyard. Now we can activate Mozarta's effect and summon, welcome to Fantasia, bitch!